Hey guys, in this video, we continue to learn more about the for loop. In the previous video, we discussed an introduction of the for loop, and we indicated that it was fixed repetition. We knew the number of times that the for loop would execute. The syntax for the for loop, we said it is the keyword for, then you have a variable, which is your loop counter, the keyword in, and the keyword range. And here we specify a number, which then determines how many times the loop will execute. An example of how the range function is used, if you say range 5, then this function will generate numbers from 0 up to 1 less than the number that you specified. So range 5 would give you 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you use range 5 inside of a for loop, it means that this loop counter variable will take on each of these values as the loop executes each time. A segment like this for I in range 5, print hello, will then print hello 5 times. The first time when the counter is 0, the second time when the counter is 1, the third time when the counter is 0, then when the counter is 2, then when the count is 3, it's going to print hello, and finally when the count is 4, it would have print hello 5 times. Now let's look at a different version of the range function. When we use the range function now, we specify 2 parameters. The first parameter is where we want to start. The first value we're generating numbers from, and the second value is where we want to end. But as was the case with one parameter, you always end 1 less than the value specified. So when you say range 1, 6, it means generate numbers from 1, not to 6, but 1 less than 6. So you're going to get numbers from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you had to say range 3 to 8, start from 3, but stop 1 less. So that's going to give us numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One final example, if we say start at 7, range 7, 12, so it's going to start at 7 and it's going to end 1 less than 12. That's going to give us 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is how the range function works with 2 parameters. Recall that when we used range with 1 parameter, that gave us numbers starting from 0, and then we stop 1 less than the number that is specified. So there are 2 versions or 2 ways in which we can use the range function. Let's now apply this in a for loop. So we're going to say for x, which is our loop counter, in range 1, 6. So it's going to start at 1 and it's going to stop at 5. Each time the loop executes, it's going to print hello. That's our string, hello. And then it's going to print the value that x takes on in the loop counter. So let's see how this works. We start here, and x in range 1 to 6. So the first value that x takes on is 1. That's the value of x. And because it's a loop, we come into the loop and we execute the statement. So that's going to print the string hello, and then take the value of x and print that converted to a string. So the value of x is 1. It's going to print hello 1. Because it's a loop, we go back to the loop counter, and x takes on the next value. And the next value is now 2. So x takes on the value 2, come into the loop and execute the statement. So it's going to print hello, and it's going to print the x value, which is 2. So this is going to print hello 2. go back up, and this time round, x takes on the value 3. Come into the for loop, it's going to print hello, and it's going to print x, which now happens to be 3. Go back up the for loop, x now becomes 4. So x has the value 4. Come into the for loop, and it's going to print hello, and the x value is now 4. Go back up, and x now takes on the value 5. Come into the loop, and it's going to print hello, and the x value, which is 5. When we go back up, remember it stopped 1 less than 6, which was 5. There are no more numbers thereafter. So the for loop stops. We come out of the for loop, and there are no more statements to execute. So for this segment, if the range is from 1 to 6, the counter takes on the values from 1 all up to 5, and each time the statement, or they could have been statements inside of the loop, they then execute for each value of the counter. Let's look at another example. It's similar to the previous one, except this time round we have for x in range 3, and the second parameter is 8. So we're starting at 3, and we're stopping not at 8, but at 7. So this loop is going to execute when x is 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And each time it's going to print hello and the value x. So immediately we know what the output is going to be. So when the first value of x is 3, that's its starting value, it's going to print hello. And because x is 3, it's going to print hello 3. Go back up, x becomes 4. It's going to print hello 4. Go back up, x becomes 5, and it's going to print hello 5. Go back up, x becomes 6. It's going to print hello 6. Finally, it's going to go back up 7, and it's going to print hello 7. When we go back up, because it stops at 7, range does not produce any more numbers, therefore the loop has to stop. Now, if we look at the previous example, we had range 1, 6, and that generated numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means the loop executed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The loop executed 5 times. If we look at this example, from 3 to 7, it stops 1 less than. So from 3 to 7, how many times does the loop execute? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in both instances, we have a situation where the loop executes 5 times, but when the range was 1, 6, the values that the loop counter will take are the numbers 1 to 5. And when the range is 3, 8, the values that the loop counter will take is 3 to 7. So the number of times the loop will execute is the same in both cases, but the numbers that are generated by the loop counter are different. That's an important point for you to take note of. Let's look at another example. Here we've got a range 50, 101. That's straightforward. You should know it by now. It's going to start at 50, 51, 52, and it's going to stop at 100. And when you run a for loop with that type of a range, this loop counter x is going to take on all of these values. So if a question had to ask you to find the sum of all the numbers from 50 up to 100, what is the sum of the numbers from 50 up to 100? We simply run a for loop starting at 50, stopping it at 100, and we then accumulate the value of x, because x is taking on all of these values from 50 all the way up to 100. It's accumulating it. You know, you should know that when you have an accumulator, you set your accumulator to 0 before you start accumulating. And this print statement is not inside the for loop. So when the for loop finishes executing from 50, it executes each time until it reaches 100. When that finishes, then the print statement will execute once. The print statement is not inside of the for loop. So it only executes when the for loop is finished. So the sequence of the statements, the way you write them, are very important.